digital-driven post-pandemic in era of the new normal workplace. This is a preview onto our masterclass 4.0, preparing for the disruptive and digital-driven post-pandemic era of the new normal workplace that will be held in January. It's such an honor to welcome you here in this event. My name is Nadia, and I will be host for you today. On today's agenda, we will have our webinar on preparing for post-pandemic digital-driven era of the new normal workplace. Our guest speaker, Prof. Sata Bawani, will having his presentation for 1 hour, and then after that we will have another agenda for questions and answers. Before moving along to Prof. Bawani presentations, I will read Prof. Bawani profiles. Right now, he is CEO of Disruptive Leadership Institute. He has over 30 years of international business management experience, including 20 years in executive coaching. He also the author of Leadership in Disruptive Times. He is concurrently the CEO and C-suite Master Executive Coach of the Center for Executive Education, currently the Professor of Practice of Disruptive Leadership with IPE Business Schools, Paris for the MBA in Disruptive Leaderships. So right now I will give time and the screen to Prof. Satar Bawani. So Prof. Satar, the time is yours.
Thank you, Nadia.
Sorry, okay, Chris, over to you.
No, thank you, Nadia. Professor, I was just thanking Nadia for the intro.
Yeah. Now, do you want to take over?
No, it's the floor is yours, or rather the screen is yours.
No, I thought you want to go through the introduction of the program for the masterclass, so you can do it later. Yes. Okay, anyway, that's fine. A very good afternoon to each and every one of you, and thank you so much for taking your time this afternoon to be with us. And for the first time globally, that I'm going to present this latest research about the best practices of organizations that we have identified that has started the entry or the implementing their strategy for the new normal. And I'll be sharing some of the 6 best practices and the organization, what worked and also what doesn't work, and to give you some insights. And it's just very quick, very brief overview, because we're going to have a workshop in January where we will be going further in depth, where we were going through case studies and exercises from global MNCs, organizations like Microsoft, A6, a sports shoe company, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, GE, Starbucks, some of these organizations that has started the post-pandemic digital transformation very successfully, and I'll talk about that later. Okay, so I think Nadia has done introduction, so I will not go into this. If you want the slides, we will give it to you. You can write in to us at the end. We will be able to share with you. Now, very quickly about my organization, we have 2 organizations that's involved in the research in the disruptive leadership. Center for Executive Education does the delivery, the facilitation, the what do you call that? The intervention, delivery intervention. But the research is conducted worldwide by Disruptive Leadership Institute, which is a joint venture between CEE and iGroup in New York, where iGroup is a global information services like Reuters, LexisNexis, where they conduct research information. So together we have offered this series of solutions globally during the pandemic. It was formed during the pandemic itself. Okay, so I won't go too much about that. And today's program, just like any other program from our, I hope all of you can hear me well. Is it okay? Yeah. Okay. All our programs that we offer, including the webinars, and we have a lot of webinars over the last 18 months. It's available free to all of you. You can, have access on the YouTube. You may have received the links, through the EDM and through WhatsApp that I've sent. You can download, and all these programs that we develop, white papers, articles, and so forth, videos, based on published research on leadership best practices. The latest report that we have published is the one on the extreme right, the trend in leadership executive development, was published in the US, where I'm one of the 6 co-authors looking at some of the best practices, leadership development strategies for the post-pandemic. What are some of the competencies which I'm going to share with you? And the one on the extreme left is the latest quarterly research that we do for a global client. And this is where I'll be sharing some of the latest best practice that organizations have been successfully implementing in the post-pandemic. Yeah, so more on the last 6 months research. So it's quite recent because the new normal, I think, is what Chris. The new normal. We've been talking about this since May last year, in the pandemic. Just to give a quick introduction, on the 31st of May, sorry, 31st of October, 30th of October, that's not 31st, 31st October, the WHO announced that the number of deaths, phenomenal, 5 million people have died because of the pandemic. When I started doing research on January 26th, when I was writing my book on digital transformation, and the publisher was asking me to look at the possibility of disruption. But the title of my book is about, the second book is about leadership in disruptive time. So they were looking at what are either, other crises that would have an impact on lives and livelihoods, on business and so forth. And for the first time, the Chinese, government locked down Wuhan, which is, a population, I can't remember, I think it was 11 million, but the province, it was 16 million. They closed the whole province. That was very, very unusual. I mean, very unprecedented. I mean, it is unprecedented. And I was asked to do research. So when I published the book on 31st of July, exactly on that day, it was 10 million. Can you, sorry, 10 million infection, 10 million infection and 150,000 deaths. Today, there are 5 million and 250 million of cases. Can you see the exponential growth? It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Of course, the worst is sometime during the third quarter of last year, where the pandemic at its peak, and in Europe and then in US to the end of the year and early this year, the US was very badly hit. And it's not over. You're going to get, and I will tell you, my research have shown through my discussion with contacts and researcher at CDC, WHO, DHS in UK, NCID in Singapore. So we look at all the various, what we call the data about the virus. So it's mutating so fast. And there's a lot of unknown. This is really a VUCA event. It's volatile. The way the virus spread is uncertain because we don't know when it's going to end. It's very complex because although we know about SARS, we know about coronavirus, been around for many years, but this time around, this SARS and CoV-2 is very, very, very different. Never they've seen this before, and up to today, nobody knows exactly when it's going to end. And I don't think it's going to become, in one of the topics I'm going to talk about, it's going to become endemic, because this is like flu, like TB, you have to live with it. It's not like Ebola, where you can eradicate, the chicken pox, you can eradicate, but, or even Ebola, the pandemic, they managed to stop the spread, and in US and Africa. So this time around, the coronavirus, I think we have to be prepared for the long haul, and this is my concern. And as every day, when I go into every single day doing research and finding out what is happening worldwide and reading papers from British Medical Journal, The Lancet, reading the CDC report, WHO report, a lot of uncertainty, a lot. So it's really a VUCA event. So what can we learn as organization, as leaders? This is what our research is, talking to CEOs, our client in US, in Europe, in Asia. And also we look at some of the other research that's been conducted by McKinsey. We look at Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, PwC, Gartner, Forrester, and there's a common themes that we can identify. One, sorry to say this, no organization that we have found has a crisis management or BCP plan that were successful in addressing the disruptive impact of COVID-19, because it's truly unprecedented, but it's not really surprising, because Bill Gates in 2015 in his TED talk about, after the Ebola crisis, they talk about the possibility of this mega virus, they call it the pandemic. And this is what he's talking about in 2015. So many people do not take it seriously. And there's a possibility, I think it was Newsweek about 2 months back wrote about the possibility of another major pandemic coming about 5-10 years time. So I think we have to really learn from this episode. Both businesses, government, and a lot of governments have, many governments have failed miserably in their ability to put in place public healthcare infrastructure, to put in place policies, and they cannot rely on the past, the playbook. Like, for example, SARS is different, although they come from similar genetic in terms of the family, where the virus, what you call it, the DNA codings, but we have never seen the way the virus replicate and the transmission in the first 6 months to 12 months when he was, identified in Wuhan. And there was still a lot of question, about the origin, where is it from the lab, or is it part of the cyber, what they call the bio warfare between, China and US, and there's a possibility there will be more such, because the research to bio warfare is coming up, getting into in a very I would say very concerning, and reading some of the reports from defense journals and looking at what is happening. Besides offer bio warfare, we're talking about AI. War will be fought without men on the field. And we're going to see a lot today. We've seen how technology, drones, and soon we have super soldiers, who are going to be put on in the field. So these are reality. This technology has disrupted totally every aspect of the business, every aspect of our life. Now, second point, I think this is something that all of us have heard: resilience. Actually, it's not new, because we know after the global financial crisis, I was going around the world delivering programs, and we talk about after the GFC. Of course, the GFC, the global financial crisis, is for the financial services, and the other smaller industries are impacted. But we then had advocate resilience in terms of being able to quickly turn around, or quickly learn, fail and fail fast, and learn from it, and being part of what we call the learning organization. So I think many organizations do not learn. I think the global financial crisis and September 11, there were other black swan events that has happened, over the last 25 years that we should have taken notice and prepared. And the third point that we have found that many of these companies, first thing they do is save. I mean, which is I think makes sense. First 6 months, most of our clients tell us the one and only priority is to conserve cash, because with the pandemic hit, most of the business, I say of course the e-commerce, the businesses where you're talking about logistics, supply chain, and they're doing well, healthcare. But by and large, a lot of companies after the first 6 months, and they're trying to adjust and trying to look for the new normal. There were plans in some country was expecting in July, August, third quarter last year. And I said it and I published it. I said, I do not believe that the new normal would be realized earlier than June, second half, or June, July 2022. The reason because everybody was hoping for the vaccine. That was late last year, December, and vaccine from Pfizer, from AstraZeneca, Oxford, then Moderna, and the rest. But I make it very clear then when I was interviewed by a radio station in the US, and they asked me, so with vaccine that Pfizer have announced, so what do I think? I said, vaccine doesn't help. It's vaccination, and the vaccination itself is a challenge because you're talking about a very, logistical nightmare. And especially a country like US, you see different states have different laws. And, Anthony Fauci, the President Biden advisor for COVID-19 task force, has having difficulty because different states do their own stuff. So you cannot go back to your old ways. So you need to disrupt your thinking. And that's why we talk about the last point is what we have found people like Starbucks, like Satya Nadella, Microsoft, when we look at Unilever, Procter & Gamble, BP, British Petroleum, GE. So what is interesting, all the leaders who's been able to put in charge of addressing this issue of the disruptive impact of the pandemic and how to get them back into the recovery phase, they all show a set of competencies. What in my research and my book, I talk about disruptive mental agility. And this is very important because you need to reinvent your way you think. You need to reinvent your customer strategy, your innovation strategy, and how do you then bring the company not only to survive but to thrive. And that's the challenge, because we have not seen many companies who are able to do that successfully. But as I said, there are few, and the worst is the SME. And there's no success story I can share. Many SME have folded up. Singapore, we try. I think the government has done a marvelous job in trying to provide support. I'm not sure the number. I'm not sure the number of companies that have folded up, but it's quite significant. And this is where we need to be realistic. This is going to get, I personally believe that the time is now, and I'll share some research. So this is the 6th point that we have published in our members, what we call it, the briefing series to CEOs worldwide. Number 1, COVID-19 is going to be endemic. Now, when we look at last year, all countries were looking at zero strategy. In other words, how do we bring down COVID to zero, the endemic? which is the strategy in Europe, in New Zealand, Australia, China especially. And today, China, as of last 2 weeks, China was the only country in the world that were focusing on zero transmission strategy, as opposed to treating the pandemic as endemic, meaning that it's like flu. Every year you go for the flu shot, there's new mutation, new variant. So this is what COVID-19 is going to be like. And this is the reality. Mask is going to become common. Even you are vaccinated, the vaccine will not last you more than 1 year. I mean, it will, over time you will wane, you become less effective. So I just went this morning for my booster shot, and I was talking to the doctor, and it's possible that every 6 to 8 or even 8 to 12 months, we're going to do a booster. We need that. And because the vaccine, the COVID-19 is going to continue to mutate. And from what my discussion with some of the doctors, epidemiologists who are doing research and papers that I've read, a lot of things still unknown about this virus. Yeah. And then the second thing, that what the new normal you can expect, that all customers will demand. I mean, customers going to demand solutions that's competitive, that is, better, more, even more cost-effective. So the question is, technology is the enabler where you can use that to be able to transform your organization, and you need to generate those innovative solutions. Third, it's about VUCA. I mentioned just now, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and this is going to remain. Especially what we have found, that the demographic shift, of course, we believe that organizations need to respond. Even the climate, that's why we heard about the ESG, environmental, social, and governance. A lot of companies are putting beyond CSR, corporate social responsibility, and to put in place strategy to address that. So this is a reality. Fourth, hybrid working is here to stay. What is hybrid working? Hybrid working basically means you have some of your staff at the office, some of the staff at home, and then you switch them around, as opposed to what we have during circuit breaker or during the lockdown, where we have remote working from home or work from home, WFH. I am not a fan of WFH. Even before COVID, I'm talking about. I always advocate, before pandemic, WFA. In my book, chapter 10, I talk about the benefit of WFA, work from anywhere. Because I used to do that for many years, for 25 years. Whenever I travel, my best place to do my thinking breakthrough solution is at the beach or at the pool. So it can work anywhere as long as you have the connectivity, network into your servers or whatever.
Hey, Bob, sorry to interrupt. We have one question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
From Jess.
Yeah.
Jess, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Sorry, I accidentally pressed. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was saying that about hybrid is going to here to be, so we need to be prepared. And I will talk about the solution later. And then number 5 is very worrying. What we have found that a lot of people are suffering stress, burnout. There are suicide rates worldwide. Singapore is not so bad, but there are. I read there was a report a few days ago about the number of cases, of stress-related burnout, and IMH has seen many, Institute of Mental Health has seen many more cases. In Malaysia, the suicide rate is so very high. And lastly, the leaders. And I'll talk about that solution. All these are the reality, that the challenges that the new normal is going to pose. And of course, I will give you the remedy. I mean, the solutions that what we believe would, based on the best practice of organizations, what they have done. And I will share with you some of the practical ways to address this. Yeah? So the leaders need to build resilience and to prepare for the next crisis. And the next crisis can be as early as the next 2-3 years. And we do not know in what form. And this could be another pandemic. But the question is, can we learn, build the resilience, and develop the mental agility to be able to bring our people together and bring the organization, as I said, to thrive, not only survive, but to thrive for the future. Okay. And when is the new normal? Interestingly, the latest research by KPMG, CEO worldwide, the response, majority of them believe is 2022. This is what I've been talking about this since last December, going through talking. When I do a lot of this webinar because of my book, tours virtually, and I ask CEOs, CHRO, and some of the business leaders. Most of them anticipate end 2021, 22, and the airline industries and travel tourism will be 2024, 25 before the pre-pandemic, or we will never recover like pre-pandemic. But the reality is that when the survey was done in March 2021, about in Asia about 6%, globally nearly one third. So in other words, 1/3 of the CEOs globally believe that by 2021 December, sometime January to December, we will have a new normal. But the reality is that you look at Delta, what Delta variant has caused for business. So that's one source. So which is aligned to my research, which is my team believe that it will be not earlier than the first half of 2022, because it will take time for some of the policies to be in place and the legislation and relevant legislation and so forth to support the business. Another research by Pew Research Center, which is very established in the US, we're looking at 2025. Now, again, depend on the industry, it varies. But the reality is that they believe, based on the research worldwide, talking to experts in various fields, whether medical or the technology side, and try to understand that 2025 is where there's no doubt we will be new normal, and that's where the technology will drive the business. And because of the technology itself, it's a double-edged sword. It's technology supposed to enable you to be more efficient, to be able to drive the organization, but technology also means that there is a gap, skills gap. There'll be more challenges, and organizations may not be able to prepare. And we in Singapore, we are very fortunate in the sense that the government provide a lot of infrastructure, support, training, putting in place, even through the education system and so forth. But not many countries worldwide has that, So even today, you look at the vaccine inequality, you look at the new normal, WHO, do not, well, because of Africa and some parts of Asia, where the poorer country do not have access to vaccine. So the question now is, there's a debate. We should not be talking about booster shot. We should not talking about, further, vaccination. When those countries that reaches 70, 80%, they should be looking at helping the poorer countries. So this is a big issue, on the vaccine inequality. And WHO, and for the Chinese, is involved very strongly in trying to provide their vaccine and to get goodwill, worldwide. And but there's a reality. But I think because of that vaccine, and because of the mutation, because the challenges that we can expect, so Pew Research was looking at a longer time frame. And then the same KPMG survey, CEOs asked, so what is critical? What do you need to do? Number one, everyone put right at the top is to put investments in technology. Now, the accelerated, the board has to approve, the CEOs and the CIOs have to go to the board and get the investment, and to ensure that you are ready, you have the infrastructure, and you are able to deliver the solutions to your customer. And one of the challenge that I was reading reports on the CEO saying that one of the challenges, of course, because during times of crisis, you need to conserve cash, and boards, most of the boards are very conservative. But this is time that you need to build the infrastructure, you need to prepare. When the competitors are not doing, you should take advantage. But technology investment is going to be critical, absolutely critical. And 69%, but nearly 70% say they're going to invest more even before the pandemic. So in other words, these are the CEOs who understand the importance of the role of technology. So in my book, when I published it at the end of July, because we were looking at two aspects, of course, the disruption of COVID and the disruption of Industry 4.0. At that time, of course, the automation, AI, robot, or now we have called cobot, C-O-B-O-T, which is collaborative robot. And of course, we have much more sophisticated machine learning, general machine learning, and so forth that has gone into corporate, to companies before the pandemic. But the pandemic, the COVID-19 accelerate, and many leaders do not know what to do, and they do not know how to go about. They know they need to do something. In other words, they know I got a problem, I need to find a solution, but the biggest problem is they do not know what to do. So it's the knowing, doing gap. Knowing, doing gap, and most of them, yes, through media, they read a lot. And most of them come back to, when I was talking to some of my clients, yeah, we know that we need to do, we need to come up with, the different policy. We need to look at cybersecurity. We need to look at employee well-being. But the question is, we've been doing that. So what is different? So they do not know how to address. So they know the challenge. They know they need to do something, but what we call the knowing, doing gap. Singapore is the first, I would say, not the first country to move into from a zero transmission strategy to what we call the endemic, or we use the word resilient. PM Lee Hsien Loong on October 9 announced on the Saturday. I don't know why you choose on Saturday. I was very surprised on the Saturday. Literally on a weekday he announced and about the transition. At that time, the number of cases, is going down. The community cases are, increasing. And I wrote an article on the 9th, the same day after, in the evening, I published an article. You can go in LinkedIn, and about Singapore's strategy, why could be successful at that time. But over the last 2 months, October, November, I would say about 6 weeks, I found that a lot of problem, and PM acknowledged that during the Bloomberg Forum, that there are, of course, a lot of things that we still need to do step by step. And Minister Lawrence Wong, the co-chair of the Ministry Task Force, in last, I can't remember which interviews he was interviewed, and it was in the Straits Times. He was saying that, we have to constantly adapt and change because the virus is changing so fast, and they right now acknowledge that they had flip-flop their strategy, keep on closing or more restricting, telling people to work from home from day 4, then they want to open up. So there's a lot of things that's happening which make it very difficult, and that's why I said this is a classical VUCA driven, and you can expect this to continue. And read, I won't go more into that, but read, and on Sunday, probably Sunday or Monday morning, I'll be publishing the assessment of Singapore's strategy. So look out for that. Certain parameters, certain benchmarks, where my team in the US and myself and a few others have identified as critical for countries, nations to be able to put, or governments, institutions to put in place a strategy to be able to, from zero transmission into endemic. And I do not know right now how Singapore score, because I've not seen the comparison. My team has done the comparison, but I've not seen the result. But I think we do not fare like many other countries. We do not fare well. Europe is they started, but they are struggling. Now the number of cases in Germany, You look at Denmark, we have a VTL, vaccination travel lane with Denmark, and then, we're supposed to be able, Singapore is supposed to be able to go in there with a quarantine. Suddenly the EU remove us, put us at the category. Singapore is in a very bad, situation where, they reimpose the quarantine requirement. So it's very difficult because, but I must say our government is quite, I believe PM, strongly believe PM is handling, involved, through my discussion with some of the, in the ministry and some of the other parties involved. I think this is something that PM take seriously, and that's why he's holding on. Of course, Singapore, we will know, he expect at least 3 to 6 months. He used the word 3 months. You can see there in the what do you call it? In this the press. October, November, December. So at that time at least. So I don't think so. I don't think so by the end of December or even January. As I said, my own research is July next year, beginning of second half of next year. But read up, it's very interesting. A lot of data, and I put in a lot of research information. Now, okay, so now is the strategy. So now the question is, the new normal, what is happening? So what do best in-class organization do? What have they done? Example, if I look at Starbucks, for example, how they have transformed their customer service interaction. They have the Starbucks in the US, the membership, forgot the name of the app, where because of the pandemic, people work from home, and how to be able to develop new solution on apps or make it easier. And of course, one thing about Starbucks, all along, Howard Schultz, the founder and chairman, has made sure that people always come first. People before process and technology. Now, this is something very important. Many companies put technology first. They buy the best technology, then they try to fit in without understanding the people aspect, the level of the competency, what is required, reskilling. So these are things that really focus on the people aspect. And the first group of people focus on your leaders, because they are the one who need to drive the team, need to drive for success. And at the same time, not only current leaders, you need to prepare for future leaders, because we're going to find the war for talent 4.0 or now 5.0 is going to become more intensified for digital talent. Coaching, or you already started organizations, looking for good people. So you need to ensure that HR, your HR team are ready now, not wait, now, to get this put in place, the talent management strategy. Third is your leadership, what I call a shift in the leadership paradigm, the mentor model, how they think, how they conduct themselves, how they treat the people, how they no more top-down, no more autocratic, more consultative, more affiliative, more coaching style of leadership, and to be able to demonstrate disruptive mental agility. And I'll talk about that. I'll give you, all what I'm saying, all the articles are free. I'm putting it free. You can download and read. But the disruptive leadership competency is very crucial. So if you're looking at, because we've done research globally and looking at what exactly needs to be done because the climate crisis, we have not hit. Let me tell you, what we are talking about, the pandemic, all this is fine, but when the real climate crisis in 2030, when what is anticipated, to hit us, that is where we're going to find a lot of companies not prepared. So now is the opportunity. Yeah. So then the fourth one, what we recommend, the best practice, we look at Microsoft, look at company Baxter, Holologic, which is the medical healthcare. What they do is they create during the pandemic, they invest more in people, and then they create learning culture, a learning organization, and organizational agility. So not only the people, the whole organization machinery, the whole organization is able to change and move quickly to be able to respond to the changing external environment. So what is happening? A lot of companies are struggling, but they're unable to unfreeze because of the change. It's happening so rapidly. They're not able to cope, and they become stuck. And this is where the failure sets in. And lastly, which I put again about people, is about how do we ensure that the people feel engaged. We want to ensure employee engagement. We want to protect our employer branding. We want to look at our employee value proposition, EVP. How do we ensure that the employees are taken care? So we live in knowledge worker, professional who knows their job. They do not want to be told what to do. They know what to do. And then now this Gen Y are in the management position. We have the Gen Z, or what we call the digital natives. They are now coming to the workforce. They are born between 95 to 2010. Yeah? They are now, I would say, most of them are, 95. So you're talking about they just finished universities, they're coming in. And we going to, for them, of course, this is a shock, with the pandemic, looking at what's happening right now. But the reality is that we need to continue to engage. It doesn't matter whatever multi-generation. And I personally don't, although I've been involved in research for many years on multi-generational workforce, but I think we need to adapt to every individual differently. Look at their personality, look at the way they communicate. As a manager, you need to invest time to have that conversation. Yeah. So these are the 5 best practices that how to be prepared for the new normal. Let me see, sorry, 1, 5. So okay, there's something, the numbering. So there should be 9. So the next one is we talk about Boeing, where they are able to compete based on the organizational learning. So how do they learn, unlearn, relearn, and be able to get that learning, looking at the competition, looking at the industry, and change quickly their offering, service offering, product offering, and business model. In other words, you must be agile enough to be able to change to respond. And of course, Microsoft is the next one, number 6. We look at innovation culture. And in Microsoft, Satya Nadella, the 3rd CEO of Microsoft, which is far much superior, better than Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, second CEO. When he took over in 2004, the company market cap was 346 million US. Sorry, 346 billion. So when in June 2020, last year, the market cap was 2 trillion. So he has phenomenally grown the company. And why? Because he was looking at the Microsoft has missed a lot of opportunity to go into new product like the cloud, for example. Yeah, because Google was controlling, and then you have Dell and others. So he was late, but he was very smart because of his relationship with all these system integrators, which does the API, application protocol interface with different software. So Nadella is the engineer. He's a career engineer from Microsoft for 30 over years. So he knows the business, he knows the industry, and he knows what the customer wants. And he makes sure that the staff spend time with the customer. And one of his mantra is about, he himself called the customer, talk to the customers, And number seven is what I mentioned. We all know we have to work from home. We need to work. Some people need to work from office, but you need to be in present on location. But what has happened that many companies fail to develop a clearly defined hybrid working policy. One of in UK, let me tell you, some of my clients in UK, they're all waiting for the government. You see, it's typical in many Asian countries, waiting for the government to take the lead. Because Singapore, we don't. I think I would say, by and large, many companies take the action. Coming out with policies. Singapore government did came out some MOM come out with recommendations to Manpower about how do you make sure those work from the office, how do you rotate, and then how do you make sure the office infrastructure is rearranged. So what is a good company, a very best practice is a company called NatWest Bank, which is National Westminster. It's a government-owned bank in the UK. NatWest was very interesting. Everybody was waiting, all the GLC, even the private sector, waiting for the government to come up with some ruling or some guidance. They waited for 6 months, nothing, and the people are quite frustrated because what should I do? If I do this, do I violate the statutory regulation and so forth? So they take the initiative. NatWest take the initiative, come up with a very hybrid policy, working policy, which define what are the needs of the employee and the business, but we need to have a balance, because not everybody has to work from home. I don't think everybody should work from home because some function need to be there, like IT or some of the warehousing, and certain function need to be physically present. Yeah. But how do you be fair to those people? How do you ensure they do not miss out on communication? They do not, you provide them the same opportunity. Yeah. And the last one, which is lately we have seen quite a number of cases of managers burnout. While the managers are helping a lot of companies, the managers, many companies, you will find the managers helping the employee. In other words, their focus is make sure their team okay, no stress, they provide support, okay, they give you a yoga or go to the gym. They provide all these corporate wellness programs. But they themselves, this is what I've seen some of my coaches, some of my CEOs that I've coached, and some of the other C-suite leaders, they are suffering from burnout, and because they do not take care of themselves. And a good best practice organization that does it super, the best in the world, is a company called Unilever. I've looked at the Unilever framework over the years, even for the pandemic, they have a corporate wellness. But during the pandemic, what they've done exceptionally is they not only provide support for the employee, they go out to make sure that working from home, that every single dependent are supported. In other words, if you are, woman professional, if you have the husband, the children, your mother or your parents staying with you, father, they will provide support. Make sure, because you want you to have a peace of mind when you're working from home. And the managers are trained. And I've seen the manual, they're trained how to conduct the session, how to do counseling. Of course, they have also EAP, employee assistance program to provide to the employee when they need. But again, Unilever is a good example if you want to look into that. Okay, so what can you do? I've talked about the best practice, the case studies. Now, there are certain skills to do what I just recommended. Certain values, certain competencies is required. So what are these? This is the crisis model that we have developed and published, and many companies are now using it in US, because my consultant and the projects mostly in the US, and we find it very simple. And Marriott Hotel, the former Ann Sorensen, the former CEO, who died because he has cancer during the pandemic, and how he communicated, how even the company was there to close the hotel worldwide. but he go to the town hall, he articulate, communicate. He was very sick. He was in stage 4. He was dying, but he faced the employee and take them and explain, because people trust him. There's a trust, trust-based partnership. So communicate, listen, be empathetic, and be purposeful when you have crises. And there are going to be more crises. There are going to be more crises. So you need to be able to do it well, and the staff need to trust you. Second, be resilient. I talked about that earlier, resilience, how to be able to bounce back, how to be able to support the people, calm, compassion, and reflect. Every day I recommend, when I was coaching some of this during the pandemic, to ask the coachee, the CEOs to reflect every day, not once a month, not once a week, every day. When you go back, what happened? What can I do better? And then the third one, the crisis, in crisis, the intelligence. How do you use big data, AI? And I also stand for intuition. Now, you may not necessarily depend only on the AI and all that, or on the big data analysis. Sometimes you need to use your own intuition sometimes. So you need to have a balance. Also, the S shift, the mental model, I talked about that just now, disruptive mentality. And I, inspiring, I talk about trust. Okay, how do you be courageous to face the employee, persevere, and show them that you walk the talk, you are there for them. And lastly, which we are talking now, set the recovery path. Many companies have not done that. They may do well during the pandemic, but because they do not know when is the new normal, so many of them do not able to answer the question for the employee where we want to go or where should we be heading. We know where we were the last 18 months. All of us know that. So next 2 years, 3 years, the new normal. So what are we trying to accomplish? And that's why I think many companies fail miserably. They're not able to put that in place. Again, I'm not going to go into the detail. These are the competencies. I talk about disruptive leadership competencies. You can get it free. Go to the website. There's a link. Then go to the articles section, articles. I set it out everything on LinkedIn, so you can just download and you can view. I publish a lot of the article under the human resource in US magazine, which they make it available online free. Yeah? So let me just sum up the key takeaway. What I think is already 4 o'clock, but we started a little bit late. This is what my recommendation. Number 1, act now. Now, have a deep sense of urgency. There's no room for complacency. Now, how do we ensure that our people, our team, our board, and in Malaysia, I'm talking to a lot of boards, I'm trying to get them, and the CEO is using me to talk to the board as an independent person to make them shift. And recently I did for Sun Dhabi, the whole board and the CEO and the what do you call it, C-suite all come together. There was an October last year, this year, October 22nd, where I get there for 1 whole day. I cannot fly in. They wanted me to do face-to-face, but I get somebody, one of the HR facilitator, and so I was conducting it through virtual. And the CEO is very gung-ho, wants to get it done. Unfortunately, the board, need to be I use the word educate, why they need to take action. So, again, not only the GLC, but even the private sector. So people need to have sense of urgency. Next, I talk about customer, because I think the customer-centric digital revolution, the transformation, digital transformation, start with the customer. So go to your customer, understand them, and the company that do this very well, excellent, is Microsoft. They really spend time and talk to the customer, really understand what, Satya Nadella himself. The other organization that do this well, of course, is Procter & Gamble, trying to, go into the consumer market and spend time to do research, to understand and develop solution that is really relevant. Number 3 is focus on the employee. As I said, Starbucks is the best example. And of course, Unilever, because they focus on employee, make sure they are well-being, are taken care, mental wellness, result in higher employee engagement score, better employer branding, which means that retention, people will remember, want to stay, and they attract the right talent. So it's very important to ensure that your people are happy. And one of the things you need to do is to provide them a development opportunity. As I say, corporate wellness is very important, and other things that are important to them. Could be sabbatical leave or whatever. So you need to understand your employee preferences. And lastly, let me say this to all of you. As I said earlier, COVID-19 is not the shock. I've gone through 4 major crises. I've gone through the Asian financial crisis in 98. Yeah, I've gone through the dot-com crisis, which is not as bad, but we have SARS, then you have the GFC. SARS is 2003, 2004. Then the GFC, which is the 2008, 2009. Of course, now we have this pandemic, COVID-19. So they're going to be the next one. I don't know, but I would anticipate. Of course, we are all preparing for the climate. We are preparing. We're talking about the COP. The conference just over. Scotland, I think they make some progress. China, India, in terms of cutting the carbon emission, but we are still way long way. But that will be 20, 30 years time. I mean, 30 years time, people, I probably won't be around. But the question is, what do you need to do to prepare yourself? And you can have another crisis. It may not be as magnitude as COVID. It could be another crisis within your industry, supply chain, bottleneck. So one of the things that companies are doing in Vietnam, they try to bring closer the supply chain, and instead of relying on China, because many of the organizations are relying on China as part of the supply chain, especially in Wuhan. You have so many factories, and everything goes into China. And when there's a problem like the COVID-19, when they lock down, Chinese government locked down, the whole worldwide supply chain are impacted. So these are things that leaders need to find things, find ways. Okay, so I will give you some free stuff. I mean, for those of you who have a CEO, if you want to, I offer consulting coaching session for CEO, and the CHRO can join, but the coaching is for the CEO, not the CHRO, to ensure the leaders effectively. There's a link there. You can go to my LinkedIn, Sata Bawani, just type. You have all my articles and all the, this offer, free consulting. And I have provided one-stop, easy for all of you, all the resources, article, white paper, research report, videos, or you can go to my website, CE-Global or Disruptive Leadership. You see at the bottom of the banner, the slide. You can get all the, but what I did is to make it easy for you, I put everything in one place. You can just download or read, so go to my LinkedIn. So when we talk about the challenges, so we have developed a series of masterclass. The first one will be in January for the post-pandemic, which Q8, the organizer, will give you some information later. So, but there are other series we do it for in-house, for client. We customize, like Petronas of Johor Corp. We customize their, the program, some Dabi as well. We do executive coaching to help them to prepare for the post-pandemic. Coaching 4.0, looking at disruptive skills, disruptive leadership. Okay, and this again in the website you can get. For those who want to get a book for November and December, we are giving away 20%. You can just go in, the code is there. Yeah. Code gives you Bawani 20. But if you want to buy bulk order for your leadership team, more than 10 or more than 15, just email me. We will give you better discount, more than this, because my objective is to make sure that people are getting the support, the resources on how to get it ready for the post-pandemic. This is the masterclass. I think later Chris will give you more detail, but I would encourage you to those of you who would like to know more and go to more detail. The title will be Future Work in the Post-Pandemic Data-Driven Workplace. What are some of the best practices can you put in place from the worker workplace? So all these three factors. So we will look at organizations that have been very successful to put in place what we call the future work. Okay, future work dimension. There are 4 or 5 models that I will introduce during the workshop. That's it. So yeah, because I saw it a little bit longer, so I will now pause for Q&A or any question. Chris?
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor. I'm very conscious of time, although we started a bit late, but I think some people, like we have had some people just have to excuse themselves because they've
That's
got
fine. Yeah. Whoever is around, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. But we can take 1 or 2 short questions if there's any. I see.
Yeah, I think Dr. Ahmad Magat put up his hand.
Ahmad Magat, yeah.
Yes, please go ahead, Doctor.
Yes, I have a question with respect to what you mentioned earlier
Right.
in your session concerning the knowing-doing gap.
Yeah.
Right.
I suspect this is a real perennial problem, especially afflicting SMEs. They know they need to do things. They know they need to change. They need to adopt new technologies and all that. But I suspect many of them really do not know how to do it. So how do we encourage such organizations to take the first step in order to be aligned with this ever-evolving change that we are facing currently? Like what you said, in this VUCA environment where things are just continuously changing, nothing is static.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, thank you, Doctor. One of I think the SME has been very badly. I think we have not seen the worst of it. We are very fortunate. Singapore, talking about Singapore, the government has provided a lot of support, grant and digital conversion, SME Go Digital program. As you say, many of them know, and among even my relative, my brother, my family was own SME, and they know. But of course, then the question is, okay, where do I put they have limited cash? Where's our priority? It's about survival, not thriving. So the challenge is to be able to get them to see and to have a self-awareness that it is important to invest in the right infrastructure. It's important to invest in the talent. And they know it generally, but the question is, we need to get them to provide the data or to provide the support and individual, I think, to be able to convince them the importance. I think as you correctly mentioned, they know it, but they are not able to do it from the people that I've spoken to for 2 reasons. One is, of course, financial, they're strapped and they need to conserve cash. Second is they have not really seen the benefit, for example, for digital transformation. Over the years, we've been talking about that. It's not new Industry 4.0. We'll be talking about this for F&B, for retail, for the last 20 years. And a lot of people do not took the government off or do not take advantage. And why? Again, this is a question of complacency. I mean, well, like one of my relatives running retail is that, why? I'm small business. I'm doing happy. I got this revenue. Oh, okay, my regular customer. Why do I need to put a ERP system, a software, retail to manage my inventory? I mean, we got the old way of doing it, and they are happy with it because it's their mindset. And how to change it, I think the chamber is doing a good job. I know the Malay chamber. I was invited by the Indian chamber. by Dr. Montessori, Montessori chairman and CEO, and I did a program in February for them. And when I was listening to the dialogue, asking questions, and they would tell, yeah, they know it, but you're right. But they say, look, we have other priorities. So how to change is about getting them to see the value proposition of why, or the benefits, the business case, and what they can achieve, a benefit in the long term. But I think many of them are still SME, depending on government. And government Singapore are giving, I think, to based on my knowledge, of course they can do more, But the question is,
this is indeed a problem, Prof. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, basically in my 2.5 years stint as SecGen of SMF,
Yeah.
My sensing there is that SMEs are just too overly pampered. They have this crutch mentality that they would only move, they would only do something if there is funding coming from the government, coming to the SME centers. Otherwise, very difficult to get them to move.
Correct.
This is the problem we have here.
Yeah.
Too much of dependence on funding. There's too much of a crutch mentality that has set in amongst our SMEs, regrettably.
Yeah, But most of them need help. I mean, most of them are mom and pop. Look at most of the SME. I mean, there are very few like OSIM, very few like Old Chunky, very few, those are well established. But I think you're right, because they already get used to their support, through the chambers and all that, the government is pouring funding. But again, I've seen this pandemic, a lot of them have suffered. But the question is, what else can we do? I mean, the government is doing it, and SME make up, if I'm not mistaken, more than 80% or 90% of the total
establishments in Singapore.
Yeah.
There are more than 200,000 SMEs in Singapore now.
Yeah, so it's quite huge, and every day there's a new one coming up. But I think you are right. I don't have a right. I think the government is struggling as well. To what extent they can still continue? Funding. But they are the lifeline, the business and in the economy. We need the SME.
Yes, correct.
So let's continue. I think this is where our part. Whenever I go out, I give talks to the chambers, I always advise. Seek help, work with the industry partner, and try to learn from others. And some of them are very proud, they say, oh, this is not your way of doing. I say, learn from, even competitor, learn from others and network. And, you may find ways of doing things better.
Yeah, this is the major problem here. They know from learning, from hearing from people, from participation in the exhibitions and all of that, where they learn new things, but getting them to act, getting them to do something, that is taking that step to act, to do something, that is the real challenge involving SMEs.
Correct.
Yeah. Very good, Doctor. I think with that, it's that's the gist of it, right? Getting them to act. So
correct.
With that in mind, I'm conscious of time again. Don't want to hold anyone up. We'll be sending you the detailed PDF brochure of the program that's lined up this January with Professor Sata. I think he's dropped us a lot of bombs, a lot of gems in his last hour to think about and act upon. Now, I know he mentioned their free stuff. I hate the word free. Complimentary stuff. Yeah. There's gems that you can go to his website, his LinkedIn, his profile, and download. But there's nothing that beats having him guide you through the content. Yes, you can download them and say, I'm going to read them, later, but later never comes because you're so stuck with work and other priorities, right? Day to day. So this gives us a chance this January 19th, 20th to set aside time where you can learn directly from the professor.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Bibijan, you want to ask a question? Dr. Bibi?
Was there another question? Sorry.
Not really. I mean, it's crystal clear. You know, your fantastic presentation is very good. It's just that I don't belong to the CEO category, so
Doesn't
no.
matter.
I
It
still
doesn't
feel
matter.
that
It
there are a
doesn't
lot of
matter.
things to learn and unlearn. Yes.
If
No,
even
no.
if you don't belong to the CEO category, you can learn how to buy in or get the board's buy-in. Right?
Yeah, but
That's
you
not the
see
case.
a lot of committee, national committee, that sometimes you need to easier for the chairman or some of the other senior folks to listen to you. They trust you, they know you, and I
Right.
think it's very important for us to do our part. And that's what I'm doing. Even my grand uncle, people, I get to make them understand what the pandemic it is and what is the digital, why they need to make. Even some of them are the younger, the millennials, the Gen Z. They know it, but they don't care. Some of them, the attitude. So I need to make them realize this is the best time. But by the time we have Generation Alpha coming in, which is the latest one, which was born between 2015 until now. So by the time they grow up and by next 10, 15 years, they'll forget about COVID. They will forget. COVID is not, they will not, because they will not remember the suffering that we went through. But the good news is that they are much more easier because they're more resilient, and based on some research I've read. But again, they're still too early. So too early. So for leaders, HR and professionals, CEOs, I think it's good. We need to communicate and share, like an event like this. I do a lot of this complimentary event like this. I want to share as much information and so that people can, learn. And I make all my materials free, on my website. Of course, a workshop that is organized by QA and other partners, which are commercially, they are running it. So, but I'm prepared for charity organization. If you have charity, I know Bibi and Dr. Ahmad Magan, Dr. Bibi Jan, or any one of you have charity, I'm prepared to do, on gratis because it's part of giving back. So I have no problem. Yeah.
Okay, I'll book you first.
Thank you, Professor. Very
Thank you,
magnanimous.
really. It's
Inshallah,
such
inshallah.
enriching and very informative sharing, because I do agree with you. I work with kids, I work with teenagers. I think many of us, not just kids and teenagers, even adults like us, sometimes we are in the state of very ambivalent, not sure what to do. We are not. I don't know whether are we numb, are we experience numbness, or are we just having this boch-up attitude? And and if you talk to them, they will say we are so kanchong. So again, it's all about perception. Yeah.
Right.
You're right. Yeah, I can tell you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I got through. Okay. So thank you so much. So Chris, thank you so much for all of you, for those of you who are still here. Jess.
Thank you.
No,
Yeah, to take your
it's
time this
been-
afternoon to join us. We really appreciate that.
It's been very good. It's
Yeah,
been very
inshallah,
good,
we
very
need it.
productive.
Okay.
So we'll be watch out for the video of this. We'll upload it onto our socials, and I'm sure Professor Sata will also upload it onto his channels, which we'll send to him. Regrettably, we could not go live with this, but I'm very sure. I mean, that's the whole gist of our premise. We curate our content and material first. So we'll see you in January
Okay.
1920.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
everyone.
Thank you again. It's so generous of Prof to share.
Yes,
And
indeed.
make it accessible and available to everyone. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.